And let's now welcome Susan Davies, Scottish National Heritage, who puts the understanding of soil ecology within the whole natural ecosystems upon which those different soils, those not only have a diverse soil biodiversity, but also the different soils themselves have their diversity. And those are within different landscapes within Scotland. For example, we've got peatland ecosystems, we've got grassland ecosystems, and multitude of other environments where we must protect them. And part of the way of protecting them is understanding how that soil biodiversity helps keep those ecosystems safe and secure for the future. Thank you very much, Susan, for coming along today. Now, Susan, you're acting Chief Executive of Scottish Natural Heritage, and you got a degree in animal biology from the University of St Andrews, and then that was followed with an MSc in environmental science from the University of Aberdeen.
That's right.
I believe with a distinction, which is quite unusual.
Thank you.
Well done. Now, the Food and Agriculture Organisation, or FAO as it's known, 146 countries endorsed the request for the proclamation of the International Year of Soils last year, 2015. That was to serve as a platform for raising awareness of the importance of soil. What do you actually see, though, as the legacy of that International Year of Soils? And what would you like to see the impact on Scotland?
Okay, Lorna, I think for me the Year of International Soils has been a platform just to raise awareness and understanding and appreciation of soil biodiversity and soil function. I think what it has done is it's brought a range of different organisations together across policy, across land use management, land use practice, and also research to look at the issue. And I think going forward you've got 27 organisations who can collaborate into the future on soil biodiversity, soil function, soil benefits, and I think that's the important legacy that we have. It's not just about organisations and the contributions that they make, it's also about the individual contributions that people can make as well. And so part of the legacy going forward will be to continue with campaigns about healthy soils, about gardens for life, about citizen science to engage people in soil biodiversity, soil data, evidence and science. And I think that again is an important legacy going forward.
So we are fortunate in Scotland then with having the good quality research, good quality maps, data agencies and organisations working on soils, researching soils and understanding how those soils function. Can you comment on how that research on Scottish soils has contributed towards a better understanding of soil biodiversity?
Yeah, I think it goes beyond just a better understanding of the soil biodiversity. I think what it has done is the research has given us a better understanding of soil functions and how those functions support broader ecosystem health and ecosystem benefits. And again, what that does is it's actually brought what has been the kind of Cinderella of environmental issues more centre stage in terms of our policy making and our management practice. I think people now have a better appreciation of the benefits of soils, not just in environmental terms, but also in social and economic terms. And I think Scotland, both in terms of the international importance of its soils and its biodiversity, but also in the quality of the research institutes that we have, has really contributed to that development or to that knowledge and appreciation, and will continue to do so into the future.
Which soil functions do you think are the important ones that we should be looking at and trying to understand more about?
Well, I think it's a range of things. It's to do with the soil stability, it's to do with drainage, relating to issues to do with catchment management planning, it's to do with soil fertility, nutrient release, and also research that SNH is involved in as well in terms of peatland restoration, the benefits that has in terms of climate change response. So Scottish Natural Heritage is doing research in collaboration with others in relation to sort of microbial effects of peatlands and how that contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. We're also doing work in terms of soil biodiversity indicators as well, in terms of using that as a measure for looking at the effects of atmospheric pollution on important habitats and plant communities too. I think those are all important areas of research going forward.
And what do you think Scotland's capacity is to protect and enhance its soil biodiversity?
I think that's a particularly challenging question, because I think it needs to be addressed again at the policy level, at the research level, and also at the practice level. I think it also needs to be addressed at different geographical scales too. So I think in Scotland we are quite fortunate though, because we've got a good policy context for the work that needs to be undertaken, particularly in the shape of the Scottish Land Use Strategy. And that informs wider sectoral strategies, both in terms of forestry, in terms of farming practices. And also we have, from a biodiversity perspective, we've got the Scottish Biodiversity Route Map as well, and that sets soil biodiversity in its context. It's not just about that policy framework, however. I think the other thing is that we need to recognise that there's an intrinsic value to soil biodiversity, and we need to recognise as well the economic contribution, the cultural, the recreational value of soil organisms going forward. So again, it requires, I guess, interaction across a range of organisations and at the individual level too.
And also in terms of people enjoying the land and the soil, providing all those landscape features. And also, can you tell us a bit about what SNH is doing to help people manage the soil as well?
Yes, I think one of the things that we're doing is working again in partnership with others to ensure that the research actually comes out with management guides, facilitating stakeholder events, raising awareness through publicity campaigns about soils and the value of soils, and again also trying to engage on the citizen science side of things. So we would like to encourage people to participate in the Opal Soil and Earthworm Survey as well, just to kind of increase knowledge and engagement about soils more generally.
And this is the understanding of soil biodiversity and the organisms that make up that biodiversity. Do you have a particular favourite when it comes to choosing a soil organism?
Well, that's a difficult one for me, not being a soil scientist as such, but I think I would probably therefore, it's not unsurprising, go for the earthworm as my favourite soil organism. And I do that for a range of reasons. I do it because earthworms and the importance of worms goes back in history, as far back as Darwin, who published a book on earthworms back in 1881. So there's a long historic scientific legacy there. And he looked at the functioning of soils, which is now obviously known also as bioturbation. So there's a long scientific history and legacy to it. For me as well, I also looked at earthworms when I was a student at St Andrews University and examined their central and peripheral nervous systems as well. So I have a connection from my own university days. But I think, in much more practical terms, earthworms really are, just such great organisms in terms of soil function and structure and the health of soils. So, they're real biological pistons. They push air through the soil. They create soil fertility, they release nutrients, they bring soil stability, they improve drainage. So for me, they're just a fascinating creature. And love them or loathe them, people can engage with them. And I think that's important as well in terms of connecting people back to nature.
Thank you very much, Susan, and good luck in leading the work on caring for our beautiful natural heritage here in Scotland. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you.